And we are live for a new episode of the Electrek Podcast. I am Fred Lambert, your host, and I'm joined as usual by Seth Wintrout. How are you doing this week, Seth?
I'm good.
All right, I hope you're ready for some Tesla news because that's mostly what we got this week. It was pretty heavy on Tesla news, and anything else in the EV world wasn't that much. But we have a few other news items at the end that we're going to discuss. We're gonna start by this kind of leak of the version 11 software that happened earlier this week. It wasn't a Model S refresh, so we kind of had an idea that when Tesla was gonna release the new Model S, there would be some kind of maybe broader software update for the in-car system, just due to the fact that it's a new layout. It has to be a kind of a different user interface. You have the new screen, a bigger screen, now horizontal. So of course we knew that Tesla is going to bring something closer that's in the Model 3, Model Y, just because of that. But we knew that it couldn't be exactly what Tesla produces in the Model 3, Model Y, because the S and X still have their instrument cluster. So you have to have something different. And also, of course, the screen in the second row seat, in the back seat, there has to be some kind of way to interact with that too. So a new UI made sense. Now, someone on social media actually managed, Mr. Friday the dog, managed to get inside on Reddit. That is, managed to get inside the Model S refresh test vehicle that was parked at a charging station, and apparently the engineers will let him inside, let him take pictures and everything, which is kind of unlike Tesla usually. But it did give us a look at the car with the power on for the first time, so that we can get a look at the user interface, which is obviously different. So in this picture right here, you can see some kind of app launcher situation with navigation on top, and updated media here. And well, this here is just if it was connected to the app, you'd get a calendar, I guess. So slightly updated buttons at the bottom here for the climate control too. A little bit more square, a little bit more flat, I think. Also, just the background too, right? Is different. Like I feel like there's kind of something
like
going on with
gradient or something.
Yes,
Pastels.
yeah, pastel color gradient. That's a good description. And here we've got another screen, which is I think you could call that the quick control screen. That you can launch on your Tesla, and you get access to things like unlocking the car, adjusting the fold mirrors, unlocking the front, the trunk, and everything like that. So also a little bit of a flatter look, different icons and everything. But it looks about like that. Quick look at the instrument cluster. The car wasn't on drive, so it doesn't really give us a look at the actual instrument cluster, but we know that that's going to be different a little bit because it is a different format of the screen. So I expect a fairly updated instrument cluster UI, but right now that's just a little glimpse that we get when the car is not power on. Also got a quick picture of the driving settings. Not much of anything there new. We have a drag strip mode, how to launch, it says, like probably something that have to do with the launch mode. There's the smart shift toggle here. We assume that that's what we've been talking about since the release, that replaced the drive mode stock, so that you can go to drive, reverse, neutral, park, and all that stuff. It's supposed to be now mainly handled automatically. So that's probably what it is, a smart shift. Media on drive is on too, which I assume it's something to do with be able to play media while the car is on drive, which is not something you've been able to do before. I would assume that if this is on, it's only for the back screen, for the screen of the second row, but I don't know that for a fact. I'm just assuming here. But yeah, if we go back to the first screen here on the left side, you also see something kind of strange. It looks like a scrolling type of place with the car on it. And later on in the week, we learned that that's actually another way to change gear. So the smart shifting, that's another way to do it. So you just, as you can see on the image right here, you just scroll up or down for drive or reverse. As simple as that. Because we know there's they added a bunch of force touch button on the steering wheel. in the documents that we got right after the release in January, that documents that Tesla shared with sales employee, also mentioned some force touch button on the center console. But this particular car apparently didn't have any. And from the few sightings that we've seen of the prototypes in the wild during testing, some of them had those buttons, some of them didn't. So it's unclear what the actual production version is going to get at this point. If it's, but yeah, it's obviously not the ideal way to do it. It's just it feels like Tesla is really banking on that smart shifting, that just do it automatically with the autopilot sensor detecting the situation and everything. And then since they know that makes some people uneasy, they try to give you other ways to do it that's more manual. But I don't know. So that thing was controversial for sure.
For sure. I don't think that's gonna. I mean, we have to see it to kind of judge it. But right now, I think a lot of Tesla owners are really questioning the logic there, especially when the stock was pretty simple and pretty, universally understood. This is going to be kind of weird.
I mean, it's again one of those things where Tesla is just betting on the autonomous thing,
right?
But at the same time, like, why, like, it cannot be a cost reason that you remove the stock. Like, it's so. Why they actually had to remove the stocks is what people are very asking. Because even if you want to do that thing, you can do it and still have the stock. And if you want to use the stock, just use the stock. It's unclear why Tesla really had to remove it.
Yeah, it kind of feels like they're trying to get a little bit too far ahead. But that they've done that quite a bit in the past, and they've done well with it. So. Mm-hmm. They keep going. I mean, the windshield wipers was kind of like the thing before. That was the big headache, mm-hmm. and I think they addressed it pretty well on the updates they did since then.
Yeah, that's true. And who knows? Maybe we're gonna get that smart shifting, and it's just going to work flawlessly, and no one's going to complain about it. But I somehow find that hard to believe.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder they could do some other stuff, like they could have the camera look at your head, and if you're like looking backwards, then it could say, "Oh, you must want to go backwards." They could do some weird stuff like that.
I think it's more about situational in terms of around the car, the surroundings of the cars, where you think, "Hey, you should be going reverse here."
Right.
But I don't know. Who knows?
I mean, I feel like there's times where you can go either way, and how's it going to decide at that point?
Yeah. I mean, they're really banking on they want you to put an address where you're going, and then they take care of the rest. It's just a lot of us have some doubt of how close Tesla is to that, which is why those they seem early to us, I think.
Right.
All right, moving on. The Bitcoin thing this week came back in focus because Tesla announced that they started taking Bitcoin in the US as a payment method for their cars. It's simple as that. You just, when you enter, place an order, and you have your $100 non-refundable order fee that you have to place, you can choose to input a credit card, use Apple Pay, or use a Bitcoin wallet. And then when it's time to actually buy the car too, you do the same thing. You can use your Bitcoin wallet and send pretty much one Bitcoin can buy you a pretty nice Model 3 at this point, or even a Model Y. But yeah, that was pretty much it. They announced that, but then a few hours later, I got to dig into the actual terms and conditions for buying with the Bitcoin, and I already had I thought it doesn't make much sense to want to buy a car with Bitcoin. But then when you look at the actual terms and conditions, Tesla basically lays down the argument why you shouldn't really do it. I mean, unless the only reason right now where it would make sense for you to buy Bitcoin is that you already have Bitcoins, a fairly large amount for whatever reason, and you want to take profit. So take profit, meaning you want to change them into US dollars. And at the same time as that, you also want to buy a car. So if those two things match, then yes, just save yourself a step of converting your Bitcoin into USD and then buying a car, because that's going to be the same thing that's going to happen here. Any other reason than that, it doesn't make much sense, because Tesla doesn't. It's really you're buying the car in USD, just using Bitcoin as a mean to do it. But the price is very much in USD, so it needs to be converted. So Tesla gives you a Bitcoin price window that is temporary, and it updated pretty quick because it needs to match the price of Bitcoin, which we know is extremely volatile. So in minutes, it can change significantly the price of the purchase. So in order to buy on Bitcoin, you need to be quick within that window to send your Bitcoins. And then if for whatever reason you require a refund or a buyback, Tesla is not required to pay you back the amount of Bitcoin that you purchased it at. So if it gains in value, for example, and we know that it can gain value pretty quick. I mean, Bitcoin is what, like it's like 5 times worth more than it was a few months ago.
I think it's almost 10 times up on the year.
On year to date.
Right.
So
kind of like Tesla.
Yeah. So you could literally like lose the value of your car within like a buyback period or something. So it's not ideal. It's really just not a good way. Stephen Hall, which one of the editors at 9to5, had a good analogy where he used that Bitcoin right now is, as its current state, it's not a very good transactional network for a currency. It's more like it's an investment vehicle at this point, and much like gold, if you will. So you don't show up to buy a car with just gold bars and like, all right, I want to buy a car. You will convert your gold bars to something else and then buy a car, and that's what's happening with Bitcoin right now. So it feels more like a way for Tesla accepting Bitcoins right now. It feels more a way to just kind of justify their investment in it and just bolster that. But again, I would not recommend buying a Tesla with Bitcoin at this moment. And I'm actually relatively bullish on Bitcoin or cryptocurrency at least. But at the same time, too, every time like, we were out about Bitcoin and Tesla right now, the only things that comes up is like, I hate Tesla now because they're basically spitting in the face of their mission with to combat climate change by supporting Bitcoin, which is extremely demanding in terms of energy needs. And I mean, we talked a little bit about that before, and I think it's kind of an oversimplification. It's the same thing as and funny enough, it's kind of like electric cars.
Right.
It's the same argument that people that are anti-electric cars use against them, and that they're using against Bitcoin right now. Is like, electric cars are not more efficient since they use electricity that's produced by fossil fuel sources, which is true to a degree, but those sources are more efficient than at the engine. And also, people that use electric cars are have a tendency to be more environmentally minded when it comes to where they get their electricity. So they can use solar, and also there's plenty of places now that offer like hydroelectricity and wind and everything. So that might not be exactly true of the Bitcoin network. Now there's some estimate that puts it at like 78% use of fossil fuel for the network, but I find it hard to believe that they're tracking that, because if every time I look at some of the biggest mining operation for Bitcoins, it's all linked to some cheap renewable energy, because that's how they make their money.
Right.
They make the money on the margin between the computer cost and electricity rates versus the actual mining fees that they get. So do you want the lower cost of electricity possible? And these days, the lower cost of electricity is renewable. So I'm not sure about that, especially long term, as the grid cleans itself with the retirement of fossil fuel plants and new capacity renewable. I just think that it's not going to be that big of a deal. All right. Another week, another Model 3 price change. This week, Tesla changed the price of the Model 3 Standard Range Plus and Long Range. At the same time, they both got a $500 increase to $38,000 and $47,000.
They should just have like a wheel that one of those web things, and you just go into the site. You're like, I want to buy a Model 3, and they're like, spin the wheel, and you get whatever you get.
Yeah, that might be a little more fun. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird. A lot of people said, "Oh, well, this Tesla decreased the price because of the end of the quarter to push, and now they're good for the orders by the end of the quarter. There's just a few days left, so they increased the price. But at the same time, like they also the price decreased like 2 months ago, and then it increased gradually over the last two price change over the last 2 months. So I don't see that necessarily, because there was another price change that went up $500. Just was it 3 weeks ago, something like that. So you can try to put meaning on this and everything, but it's I find it hard on my side. But yeah, right now basically the standard range plus is back to the price it was selling just over a month ago or 2 months ago, back in February, really. And that's when it was at its lowest at $37,000. So now it's back up $1,000 before that price decrease in February. I'm not gonna try to explain that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you could say like, well, maybe the price of raw materials for batteries is fluctuating a lot, so Tesla has to kind of keep everything.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's why I would like to have a PR department to just reach out to and like, hey, what's going on? Can you give us just a quick explanation about the idea behind it? Hey, no problem, and they do it. And speaking of PR, that was good. That's a good segue. Speaking of PR department, like this story is the biggest one. I would like to have a confirmation for Tesla what's happening there, because I don't understand it at all. So last month we discussed Edmunds, a big auto publication. They did an independent test of a bunch of different electric cars, including a bunch of Tesla vehicles. They did some independent range tests that resemble as close as possible as the range test as the EPA, and try to see how if they could get the car to get the EPA range. And the result were kind of significant, where most non-Tesla vehicle achieved or beat their EPA. Actually, I want to say all of them except
Polestar, I think.
Yeah, all of them except the Polestar 2 Performance exceeded the EPA range. And then all Tesla vehicle, I just want to be sure about that. Yeah, all Tesla vehicle missed the EPA range by between 2.5 and 17% of that range. So a lot of people were upset about that. Like, what's happening? Is Tesla being too optimistic about its EPA estimates? And we know that automakers have some leeway in terms of what kind of estimate they advertise in terms of range compared to what the EPA gives them, because there's a multiplier where they have the option to play with that. So you can be more conservative with that range, or you can be more optimistic with that range. And Tesla is definitely in the more aggressive, optimistic side of things, while most of the automakers are conservative about it. So it's two different strategies. Now, what happened this week is that Edmunds was out with another report in which they said that Tesla reached out to them and complained about their test and said that the test wasn't accurate. And the reason for which was inaccurate blows my mind. They say, and why I said that, that's why I would love to ask Tesla PR about this, because first of all, the way that Edmunds framed it doesn't sound like a PR department reached out to them. Again, the PR department is done. They keep talking about a bunch of Tesla engineers reached out to them, but in an official capacity, apparently. So they were authorized to. And Edmunds said that those engineers explained to them that the results were not accurate because it didn't drain the battery completely. They just stopped driving when the range showed 0 miles on the actual system, and they didn't try to keep driving after that, which is something that Tesla tells you not to do in the owner's manual, by the way. And those engineers, those Tesla people, apparently told Edmunds that if they would have done that, they would have achieved the EPA range. So this is mind blowing. Like, why would you even do that? Like this, if your goal was to correct Edmunds' reporting, like you just fell right there because you just gave them like more ammunition to just hit you with it. It's
new story.
Yeah, I mean, good on Edmunds. They actually didn't lead with that. I did in my post because I thought that was the bigger part of the story. Edmunds actually, what they did is like they listened to Tesla and they were like, all right, let's just put that to the test for some reason. Like like it would even be useful because again, you're not even supposed to drive like that. In the owner's manual test that tells you don't do that.
And also common sense.
Yeah, I mean, just like with a gas car, if your tank shows empty, look for a gas station. Like just don't let me see how much more I can drive. Like you can have big problems with that. Same with an electric car.
Yeah, and I think it's probably variable. Like, I mean, they're saying this is dangerous. They're saying, well, you have 7.3 extra miles on a, like somebody's going to be like, oh, I have 10 miles to go, and it says I only have 2 miles of range. They're like, I know I got 7.3 miles. Not always. Like sometimes at 0, you're kind of rolling the dice.
Yeah. So yeah, speaking of that, like the 7.3 you just mentioned, that's the Mustang. They tested a few cars. They tested the Mustang and the Mach-E and the ID4 with the Model Y Performance, Standard Range Plus Model 3, and Long Range Model 3. And they got a few more miles out of them for the Model Y Performance. Well, I mean that's 65 miles per hour. Let me look at the actual loops. Model Y got 11 more miles, and Long Range Model 3 got 17 more miles after hitting 0. Okay, so those two actually hit their EPA range, I think, with that. And the other vehicle that they tested actually didn't even hit the EPA range with it. But again, I don't even understand why they did that. I wish we could ask Tesla about it, because I mean I don't want to put the blame with Edmunds here, but I just find it so hard to believe that they would that's how they presented the thing. Like maybe they reached out and they discussed like how did you guys actually did the methodology, even though they went into the methodology in the actual report, and maybe they didn't agree with how that was done and everything. That's perfectly fair, because there's no perfect range test. It doesn't exist. Your range will vary for a bunch of different factors, internal factors, external factors. That's clear. But if you read the report for Hensman, it sounds like that was Tesla's problem. Tesla's problem was like, hey, we have a battery buffer, and every automaker has a battery buffer too, but you hit our EPA estimate if you use our battery buffer, which we tell you not to use in the owner's manual. I find it's hard to imagine that was the conversation. Maybe it was. I don't know. But again, why I brought it back to the Tesla PR thing is like that's a perfect example why you need a PR department. Like I feel like this wouldn't happen like that if they would actually have communicated through the PR department. But who knows?
Yeah, I have some problems with Tesla's their range estimates as well. Like, it's not just on the bottom end, but like the top end, they really don't want you to charge all the way to full. We're going on a trip to Florida tonight, actually, and so we're fully charging the Model Y, and theoretically, you're supposed to get 325 miles with that Model Y after the updates, but like mine won't go beyond 311 miles, and that's I've fully charged it maybe 4 times since I've owned it. So either they're saying I've lost 14 miles of range in the the year I've owned it, or that it really doesn't go to 325 miles. And frankly, at the normal, what you're supposed to do on a daily charge, it's like 280 miles, which is great range and would be fine for me, and obviously is fine for me. But Tesla advertises 325 miles, which is just not true.
Yeah. Well, do you think there's a solution? Because I mean Tesla is definitely a bigger problem for Tesla. I think is the solution Tesla moving to a more conservative estimate like other automakers, or do you think there's a solution where we change the way we advertise range in electric cars altogether?
I think the latter is probably good. I mean, to be honest with you, I like electric vehicles to make people feel comfortable. Like I would like all the automakers to be able to use Tesla's equations, and the Mustang Mach-E should have 320 miles of range, and the Porsche Taycan should have 320 miles of range as well. So for me, like I would rather people who are deciding between gas and electric to feel a little bit better.
Mhm.
And those cars can go 320 miles, like if they're driven right, and
Just like they
charge
could probably go 400 miles if you hyper mile them.
right.
So if we are changing the way that we advertise electric car range, do you think something like an actual range within the range will make sense? Let's say like for your Model Y, for example, you would say 250 to 350 miles of range. Like you give 100 miles of range depending on how you drive that car.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be hard to say, to have one proving ground in the US and say, all right, how far is this car going to go around a track at 65 miles per hour?
Mhm.
Like basically just put it on 65. Obviously if it's a track, like the wind's not going to be a big difference. And just see how far it goes. And then that's the number. Like then take another car.
Yeah, but then you have cars that are optimized for different speeds with their motors, and then you also have cars that have more efficient regenerative braking than others, and that can be taken into account. There's just so many factors.
Right, that's true. Yeah, I agree.
It's hard. It's a hard
tough.
problem. It's a hard
Right.
problem. Like I don't claim to have the solution. I just yeah, I don't know. We can get better for sure. It's gonna get better actually. Like smarter people than me and you are probably gonna work on this at some point. And
yeah, I mean the EPA gas mileage is a factor of a bunch of things, and I'm sure they can factor in as many things and come up with like a big equation to make it make sense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean they already have like city highway, and the EPA, so they could have two different things.
Yeah, you could try maybe to advertise more range and just tell you like this is the range at 65 miles per hour. This is a range at 30 miles per hour. And that could help. I don't know. All right, let's move on. The Model S, the new Model S, Elon confirmed this week in a quick tweet that it is a 7-seater. So that's something that actually mentioned when he first announced the Model S Plaid 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago, he said that it's going to have a third row set of seats. However, in the launch in January, it wasn't an option. It wasn't in there. That's not too surprising because technically it could be as if it's a jump seat that you put in the back, it could be aftermarket accessory that Tesla adds after the fact. Was it the case when you bought your Model 3 Model S 2013 with the jump seat?
You could not do it after the fact because they double reinforced the rear bumper.
Okay.
So if you got rear-ended, you would that area would not cave in, whereas a typical Model S would have a crumple zone in the back.
Yeah,
you obviously don't want a crumple zone if the kids are back there.
For sure. So maybe that's standard now on the new Model S, and that could explains it, because obviously this wouldn't really be fair for the people that already ordered their car if you have something else that you need to do to get them the 7-seater, and people were looking for that because of course he's been advertising it for a while. He's been talking about it. It just hasn't happened yet. But in a tweet this week, he straight up said that it's going to be the new Plaid is our best car ever. Will be the first car to achieve 0 to 16 under 2 seconds, and it has 4 doors and seats up to 7 people. You still use that people thing because, of course, the original Model S jump seat, it was a 5+2, people called it, because it's not. Obviously, it's only kids for the back. Here we have pictures of your kids, and I mean, what age was that here on top here? Maybe?
I would say 2 and 5, and then the bottom is probably 4 and 9, maybe. I don't know.
4 and 9, and you can
maybe 5 and 9. Yeah.
At 9, it was like getting
yeah.
It's pretty much the last few months, 2 years for. I mean, of course, it depends on your kids' sizes. It's not all the same, but you cannot feel most adult there unless you have a very small adult. But he's hinted previously that it could be adults back there, but now he switched it to people for the last few mentions of it. So we'll keep an eye on the configurator on the aftermarket website, see if the jump seat becomes an option.
It's weird, right? Like is the Model S with the crazy 0 to 60 in like 1.9 seconds or faster the number one car that you want to have a rear facing third row in? Like, I feel like those kids are going to have broken necks.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be terrifying. Just go at lunch. Yeah, that's another thing that's confused people, because he did say Plaid S in that tweet and then mention the 7-seat. But I have to assume that just the long range Model S would also get the 7-seat. There's just no reason for.
Yeah.
Even on the contrary, because the Plaid has 3 motors, so that takes more space, I assume. So it would actually be harder to get that jump seat in the back than it would for a dual motor long range Model S. I don't know, but yeah, it's not clear if the long range will get it too. I'm assuming it would. It just wouldn't make sense for it to have it. Not that it's like, oh, the long range Model S doesn't accelerate very fast too.
No, it's so fast.
Yeah, it's still fast enough that you don't want to do a full acceleration if you have kids in the back like that.
I think it's kind of just like a bragging point. Like, our car is faster than the fastest production car ever, and there's room for 7 adults in there. Like, it's just one of those check boxes.
Yeah, I mean, we know that the first Model S to have 7-seat, that was literally like something that Elon designed from his own family, because he has 5 kids. Oh, he had at that point. Now he has 6, I guess. So like, it's something that Elon wants, so Elon gets it. It's as simple as that. But I'm the first to admit that I do like the fact that my car accelerates very fast. I don't use it that much, but I mean, if I'm at a red light and it's it's a road that has like a 90 kilometer an hour speed limit, I mean, I'll try to get at that 90 as fast as I could from the green light for sure. And I like doing that. It's legal and it's relatively safe too, yeah, it's like what do they call it? Like a roller coaster on demand, if you will.
Yeah,
I get the appeal. I won't lie, I get the appeal. All right, still with Elon, he did give us a tiny little bit of a teaser for the updated Tesla Cybertruck. So we know that Tesla is due to unveil the updated version of Cybertruck ahead of production. Tesla is known for unveiling a production car that's fairly close to his concept vehicle, unlike some other automakers that unveils those crazy concepts and they're like, hey, we're going to bring that to production in 3 years, and then in 3 years they unveil a car that looks nothing like that concept. Tesla is not like that. They do unveil cars that are similar to it, but the Cybertruck, they've been talking about a lot of refinements, so don't expect like a traditional looking truck. It's still going to be that weird mobile, if you will, but it's going to see a few refinements. Then someone on Twitter this week asked, would it be badass if Elon Musk had a little bit of time on his hand to maybe tease us with Cybertruck stuff? And sure enough, Elon responded, there will be no handles. So on the Cybertruck concept, there were handles, and they were very much like the Model S handles. So they auto present, and then you pull on them, they unlock the car, and then they go back in, like we see in the picture right there. They are flush on the doors. So very much like the Model S as good old handles. But now he's talking about no handles at all, whatever that means. We know that the Model X used to have those self-presenting doors right there. Like you just walk up to them and they open by themselves. Or you could also just, I mean, like the Model X has door handles. They look like they are like the Model S, but they're not like the Model S. They don't pop out. They never pop out. They're just like a button, basically.
Yep.
Press. So while they do look like handles like that, they're just very much a button. So you could have a very similar system, just with an actual button instead of an handle, like that. Like you just see like that. It's just a button, and inside you just pull it back in, or you press on the brakes and the doors will close. I feel like it has to be something like that. What else could it be, you think?
Well, we saw on the new Roadster, they had that no handles, but like you swipe up on the B pillar.
Yeah.
I would really like that would suck if that's the
Mhm.
case. Like, frankly, it would be a real downer. I mean, Tesla's got to win over truck guys. I don't feel like a capacitive, like touchscreen to open the door is, they have mud on their hands or gloves on.
Mm.
Like, I don't know. I just hope they're not trying to be too smart. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand what you mean. I feel like they have to know that. If they
Right.
don't, it would be kind of weird. Um, Maybe something like the Mustang Mach-E, which is, I mean, it's kind of a handle. Like, by definition, it's a handle, but it's not a traditional one. It's just like a little kind of wing that pops out. But it's still an handle, so I don't think it can be something like that.
Yeah, but I mean, the rear door on the Mustang Mach-E, you
Yeah,
basically push a button and it pops open.
yeah,
Like that could be like that.
yeah. But
Uh,
even then, like they had to put some rubbers inside, so when you actually like pull the door open, like you don't just grab the metal of it. Like it's just, to me, I mean, it was better than nothing for sure. But I feel like if you have to do that, like like it's something that doesn't feel right on it. But
yeah.
of course, the goal in their case was the aerodynamic performance, but a handle that pops out also does the same thing for aerodynamic performance. So I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like they did a pretty good job with the Model
Yeah,
3 and Model Y. Like that's a pretty good
yeah,
system. Put your thumb in, pull it
yeah.
out. Like some people don't get it the first time, but like
Yeah.
the second time they know how to do it.
Some people don't get it first time, but also like if you have a bunch of things in your hands, it's also not ideal. Like
Right.
there's a few times I'm like juggling a bunch of stuff, and I'm like trying to put my thumb in there and like pull it, and it's not ideal. So this could definitely be a better solution. I never had to me the Model S is always been the best because you actually
Yeah.
get a handle, and if even if sometimes like the car didn't detect me walking up to it or something like that, you just press on it and then it pops out. So that's a lot easier to grab after the fact. So maybe well, it won't be something like that. Like you said, it's not an handle, but I think something like that would have made a lot of sense.
Our Model X had a thing where if you approached it, the door would pop open.
Yeah,
But
stop
that
or something.
that was a problem because our bedroom is above the garage or near the garage, and it would just the difference in whatever would in the middle of the night we'd hear the door pop open just because that's where our keys were,
Uh-huh.
and so we put the keys on the other side of the house and then we'd lose the keys. So it was like, oh, this isn't really helping us at all.
You needed one of those Faraday pouches.
I
Put your
know,
keys
but
in the Faraday pouch.
then you're carrying around a Faraday pouch like that's
No, but you can buy one of those like Faraday cages, if you will. That
and you put the key in it.
yeah, as soon as you come inside, you just put
Right.
the keys in, and then how it works. Yeah. All right. Now we'll move on to something Elon tweeted this morning that he actually deleted. Ooh. Yeah, and they deleted it, and a bunch of people are speculating that it might be because of the SEC, which would kind of surprise me. Elon has been kind of a FU attitude when it comes to the SEC lately, and forever, really. But yeah, so with the settlement that Tesla had with the SEC, with Tesla and Elon had both part of the settlement when they had, with the whole founding secured thing, it involved a few things. Of course, $20 million fine on each side. Elon stepping down from the chairman position, and by the way, how long was that chairman? I think it was just 4 years. He couldn't be chairman or something like that. Maybe.
Oh, I
Maybe.
didn't even know it was. I thought it was just open ended.
Yeah, I thought it was temporary. Maybe soon he could be back at chairman. I don't know. But it also involves some kind of vague oversight of his Twitter account from Tesla. So Tesla's like legal department, I guess, would have some kind of oversight on his Twitter, so he doesn't disclose material information through Twitter. Personally, I never see the value in that because like Elon's Twitter is like if he says something like that, how is it different from him saying like something in an interview? Basically, like it has a giant reach at this point. Like 50 million people follow him. So like if the problem is like this dissemination of information, like I think that's about as good as it gets. Of course, saying something that's false is completely different. And in the case of the founding secure thing, I mean, we could argue like how false it was, but funding secured sound inaccurate based on what we learn after the fact. So that's another thing. But anyway, saying things that are material on his Twitter was a concern for the SEC. So what happened today, or like early this morning? Elon tweeted out that in response to a bunch of his super fans going like, "Hey, FSD is the greatest thing on earth, and as soon as it happens, Tesla is going to be the biggest company on earth and everything." Elon did respond. So I think there's a more than 0% chance that Tesla could be the biggest company. That's not new. Like he said that before. He said that's a possibility.
Yeah, and on earnings calls too.
Yeah, a bunch of times. But then the weird thing that happened is that some guy named TuneLA24 was like, "Hey, I like the arrow on that 0% thing," which is like, it feels like he was just kind of pointing out that what Elon was saying was more than 1% in case some people like didn't understand it for whatever reason. But then Elon responded to that saying probably within a few months. That comment didn't make much sense. Okay, like it doesn't make much sense. But if you're really like just following with the context and everything, it does sound like he's saying within a few months we could be the biggest company in the world. You kind of have to stretch things a little bit to go to that, but that's what makes the most sense because there's nothing else that really makes sense for him responding to that comment. And then he deleted it. But he deleted it after like a bunch of people were like, "Hey, that's I'm not sure with the SEC if that's fine you say that, like we can, because you're basically saying that Tesla is going to have like a 4-5x increase in value within the next 4 months," which again is not exactly what he's saying. Though personally, I do agree, and I think most people actually would agree that if Tesla does deliver full self-driving on their current hardware, like they've been promising for a while, if they do that, they do solve the computer vision problem with self-driving and everything. I think they automatically become the most valuable company in the world. Like it's just because they unlock so much value, having already hundreds of thousands of vehicles on the road right now that you can turn full self-driving tomorrow. That thing is worth hundreds of billions at the minimum. And then every new car that they produce from there is full self-driving, and then there's going to become some kind of race between regulators to approve all self-driving in different markets and everything. So yes, there's a ton of value. I think most people would agree with that. What people don't agree with is that ever going to happen? Tesla delivering full self-driving on the current hardware, or if it is going to happen on what timeline? Because Elon has been saying basically a few months from now, by the end of the year at the minimum. So
since like 2017.
Yes, that's the thing. He's been wrong about that timeline. No one can argue against that. But I mean, I think you would agree to. You've been a little bit more skeptical than me when it comes to full self-driving. I think you would agree though that if it happens, if they deliver full self-driving, level 5 complete full self-driving on the current hardware, Tesla won basically. They won the transport industry.
Yeah, so that's a lot of hypotheticals. First of all, I don't think Tesla can do it in a year, maybe a couple years. Once
they do it, like, and especially like if they do it and they are first, that's what I'm, because Elon is basically assuming that they're going to be first. He said it multiple times, even though he's been wrong about the timeline. He's like, I don't see anyone else beating us.
Right. So I don't necessarily agree with that. Like I think Waymo and Cruise are pretty close in terms of capabilities and abilities. Mm-hmm. So if they get out there, if they're legally FSD, and let's say by the end of this year, this is the year that not all the other years that it's going to be at the end of the year, then like it would be worth a lot more. But then you also have to consider a lot of the people who buy Tesla stock or own Tesla stock right now have baked into their thesis of why Tesla is worth what it is.
Yes and no though. Like if you have a Tesla network full self-driving tomorrow, like I think that's worth a lot more than what Tesla's worth right now. No?
Yeah, no, it's worth more, but I think it's not worth So some people are hedging that, right? So some people like say, I don't even know what it's worth right now, but it's like 600 or
I
something.
think it's less than that now. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe
Probably
it dipped under
5
600.
maybe. Yeah.
But so, maybe it's worth 1,000 at that point. So a lot of people have, are expecting it to happen. And, if it doesn't happen, then if it never happens, then Tesla's probably not worth 600. It's probably worth like, 2 or 3.
Oh yeah, that I agree with. Yeah.
So a couple, just main points, like I don't think it's like Tesla's ready. Like, I'm about to drive this car to Florida, with their full, with, like, I bought full self-driving. I don't have anything near that. And then
You don't have the beta though, right? So.
And I don't have the beta either. So I just don't think the beta is that good. Like, the only people who have tried the beta are like some, Elon super fans. So do I trust their judgment of it? Not at all.
I mean, you've seen the videos though. There were some impressive videos of it.
There was absolutely some impressive videos, but there might have been some, really bad things happening as well. I mean, all I know is like what I can drive, and what I can drive is not going to be ready within a year, or, what I'm driving doesn't feel like it's going to be ready in 5 years sometimes. So, I don't think it's going to happen, but, in the off chance it does happen, I don't know that it's not baked in a little bit already, so I don't know that it'll be the most valuable company. And it depends on how far behind Waymo and Cruise and, whatever Apple's doing is ends up being.
Yeah, I mean the big difference, especially if we go Waymo, Cruise maybe, but Waymo, due to the limitation of using mapping and geofencing, it is just the even if they have a good system that works within that, the rollout is just so heavy in all the different markets.
Yeah,
it will get smoother, I think, as they do it, but. I think Tesla's approach is definitely a winner in terms of scale.
And it's all integrated as well, which is good.
Yeah, so if they can just turn a switch and then it's in all the cars where it's approved by the regulators in those markets, it just adds so much value instantly. And yeah, I mean, I don't know about the kind of figures that Elon was throwing around in terms of hiding actual value to each car directly, like like your car would be worth like $200,000 or whatever. I don't know about that, but it will definitely it will be worth more than what it is right now in terms of $10,000,
significantly more too.
Yeah,
but Elon's calculations are that Tesla is the only company that can do self-driving. So that's why it's worth so much more. But if Google can do self-driving and they take the Android model where they, give it to Ford and they give it to Volvo, and, like you get maps to Burger King sometimes or something, or whatever their model is, then Tesla's autopilots or full self-driving isn't going to be worth as much if you can go buy any car that has Google's Waymo in it, for another couple thousand, for instance. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of things that all of this stuff is based on, and I don't necessarily agree with every single scenario that kind of Elon's perfect world scenario, I guess.
Yeah, I agree that it's not going to be the perfect scenario, but the way I see it, like, it's not even the purchase. Like, if you are like, let's say like Polestars just integrate an Android like full self-driving from Waymo or Google or whatever, I don't see too many people going for that. I think that most of the value is in this electric autonomous ride share. And I think the actual current global scenario that we have, the global situation with the pandemic and everything, that plays into that hand perfectly. I mean, mass transit, public transport saw a massive decrease in user with the pandemic. So now imagine if you have a taxi with no one else in it, basically. Like a taxi where you don't have a driver, you have zero to little chance of any kind of contagion going on in your transportation. That adds a ton of value. And so yeah, I think just Tesla be able to turn that on pretty quick, just like a Uber with autonomous. And and with the economics of it, like it's just you create what happens when you dramatically change the economics of an industry. Things that you don't know could happen, you didn't anticipate happening, happens. Like it's going to change a lot of things. Where when you literally cut in half the cost of travel per mile, which I think is very feasible with an autonomous electric ride sharing system, like you really cut the cost of travel by half, and it's gonna really create this whole thing of less ownership of cars, of course. But yeah, I think that's where the value lies. I mean, how much Uber is worth? Uber is approving Uber
like 10 billion or something. Lyft's probably similar.
10 billion. No, it's worth
More?
more than 10 billion. I wouldn't imagine that. Market cap 101 billion.
Oh,
Uber,
just an order of magnitude.
Yeah, just wrong by another magnitude. That's nothing. And Lyft is worth 20 billion. So I think right away you just destroy that. You just absorb that right away, right? Like what did they do? I mean, I know that both Uber and Lyft had their own self-driving, but it looks like it's behind Tesla at this point.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, Lyft is partially owned by GM, which I think obviously would put it into the cruise world, maybe.
Is it a significant ownership?
I don't know. I mean, GM? That's the thing though. Like cruise, and I think wasn't there like a deal that Cruise was striking out to try to make deals with other automakers, and then obviously Waymo.
They invested $1 billion in 2019. Yeah, but anyway, now imagine, okay, so they absorbed that $100+ billion of value, and then imagine what Lyft and Uber's value would have been if the cost to use them was half. Like, how many more people would be using that? I mean, it's not double, it's not triple, it's probably like 10 times as many people would be using that.
I agree. So, although it's not absolute. Like a lot of people are like, well, nobody's going to own a car anymore. Like,
yeah, I also agree with you on that. Like it's not one or the other. It's going to be a mix of both.
Right.
And I don't know what the mix is going to be, and I think no one really knows, because like a lot of people right now don't even believe that it could be a thing. And,
right.
And I understand that, because of course, like especially if you're in places like in the Northeast, like drive in the winter, and like yeah, like you're gonna be able to do that with a system with the cameras, and the cameras always tell you, oh, the vision is compromised and whatever. Like this is, but when you're in places like California, though, and it works smoothly because there's never snow or anything like that. Like, it's different. It's just different.
Right.
But yeah, that was the little controversy this morning. All right, Lucid had the big announcement this week. They sold out their the Lucid Air Dream Edition, which is the first edition of the Air, which is supposed to be out right now, but last month it was delayed until the second half of next year. But it looks like it's achievable, though. The
second
timeline
half of this year, though, right?
Of this year, yeah. So second half of 2021, the first deliveries are expected. This looks somewhat achievable because they completed the factory just a few months ago now, and they have production equipment installed. So they had some more test vehicles. It sounds more likely, but we never had any idea of what kind of demand there is for the Air. There's been a lot of comparison with the Model S and with the new Model S coming and everything, but now this week, what they said, we sold out the Dream. Then they didn't really say how many cars we didn't reach out. The company was like, how many did you plan? And they said, we're not really disclosing that right now. But then a bunch of readers found that Peter Rawlinson actually already disclosed it, that it was about 500 cars. So nothing too impressive on that front. Like, it's not bad either, 500, because it is a more expensive version of it. It's the fully equipped one, which starts at $169,000. So it is an expensive vehicle.
I feel like Hindenburg might be knocking on Peter Rawlinson's door pretty soon, just to get those numbers.
Yeah, I mean,
500 is not that much.
it's not that much, and they ask for a $7,500 deposit, which is significant. Like if you're putting down 7,500, you're interested in that car. And they also disclosed that they had about 7,500 overall reservation, which required up to $1,000 deposit. So it's not a huge number, but it is decent. Like it's probably a lot more than what they're going to produce this year. And let's say at an average of with the air touring coming, and so let's say probably the average for the first year of production, I would assume was going to be over $120,000. Put 7,000 cars on the road. That's almost $1 billion in revenue. Ain't bad. It ain't bad. So let's go on that front. And also looks like, again, it's been delayed a few times, so I'm not getting my hopes up too much. But it looks like they might be delivering the first electric car with over 500 miles of range on a single charge. Because we know that the Plaid Model S is not going to do that. Tesla switched that to the Plaid Plus, and it looks like they delayed the Plaid Plus into next year. So if Lucid can finally stick to their timeline, the Dream is going to come out as the first car with over 500 miles of range.
I don't think Elon's going to let it happen. I think
you might be right, because there was this kind of competition that it started with the price of it too, because the Air starts at 80, and then Elon did the 69.99 thing and and whatnot, 69 for 20 thing.
Right.
All right, we have one more piece of news that we're going to discuss real quick, and I'm telling you right now, it's not going to be the biggest news ever, so it's going to be quick. So, but if you have any question you want us to answer right now, put it in the comment section. We're going to get to them in just a few seconds. So, Jeep, they unveiled their all-electric Wrangler that they've been teasing for the last few weeks. So we were excited about it. Like we know that the CEO last year had talked about the idea of bringing an electric Wrangler to market, so that got us excited. Then they say, "Hey, we have a prototype that we're gonna show, in a few months." They unveil this teaser image and everything, and like, oh, okay, this is really happening now. Then they unveil that thing, the all-electric Wrangler Magneto. If you're a fan of X-Men, you know what Magneto is, and it's not a production car, nothing like that. It's very much a concept. Also, it was unveiled as part of like 6 other Wrangler concepts, so that doesn't get your hopes up right there when it's just one of many concepts. And then I started reading into the car and everything. It's not even built on an EV platform. It's a Wrangler. Which version? It's
Rubicon or something.
Yeah, exactly. It's a build on it's a Rubicon that's been retrofitted with an electric powertrain. So in 2021, you cannot bring that to market, really. That, like, if you bring a conversion car to market, like, it's just you look bad. And sure enough, like, they cannot fit a big battery pack in there. They fit. Oh yeah, and I mean, come on, look at that. Powering the Jeep Magneto Z motors are 4 battery packs with a combined power of 7 kilowatts per hour.
Yeah, they need to probably get like very remedial electrical engineering for PR people class going.
I mean, this, like, how many things can you screw up in one sentence? First of all, kilowatt hour is not a power metric; it's an energy metric. And also kilowatt per hour, that's not even a thing. Like, you just made that up. it's a double negative. Also, 4 battery packs, like so that's what happens when you actually, I don't, like, it's 4 battery module probably that they mean. And while they say 4, it's probably because they're not at the same spot in the car. And why is that? Because it wasn't designed to be electric, so it was put together like that. Yeah, so 70 kilowatt hour for this kind of form factor here. Like, you I don't know what kind of range you can get, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's no more than 100, 150 maximum. So yeah, it was a big letdown. Basically, that's what it was.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well. Like, that this is not going to go over well. I don't think at all.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, like, FCA or whatever it's called right now, what is it called?
Stelladora? No.
Stellantis. Stellantis, I mean, if I'm going to bet on one automaker that's going to go away with the electric transition, I mean, that's my top candidate right there.
Interesting. More than Mazda?
I mean, Mazda can be bought out probably and just turn into an electric, like just convert the capacity that they have in production, a few factories that they have. But in terms of the big ones, let's say the big ones,
right?
Because FCA still has like millions of units of volumes per years, and I mean, not Jeep, of course, but that's just one of their many brands, and they have nothing. They're years and years behind.
You know, the Ford 500e, or sorry, the Fiat 500e. The new version of that is not so bad in Europe. They have the Chrysler Pacifica plug-in hybrid. It's not horrible, but yeah, that's it.
That's it. And even like when you look at what's coming, like I know there's a few things that's coming, but it's not even like high up on our radar right now. That's all. That's all far behind they are. All right, let's jump into the comment. Anyone has a good question for us? Put them down right now because we're gonna get through them pretty quick. Because Seth needs to get on the road soon.
That's right. All right. All right, we're gonna have to go down pretty far to get. All right, about all the Tesla price changes, perhaps they're just keeping the price as a moving target to prevent people from waiting for potential new subsidies. Hadn't thought about that. That's from Vicente Perez.
Yeah. Can you click on them? Sorry
about that. And then he follows up. They kind of did the same shell game before with the subsidies went away. Their prices went up and down so often that by the time the federal rebate ran out, there wasn't much of a sticker shock.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of discussed that last podcast. It looks right now like the most likely scenario would be something that's retroactive, so it shouldn't affect sales too much. But even then, like it's so up in the air that people might still have some concern about it. So it might be right. It might be right.
All right. This is talking about the gear shifting. Dan Oberst says, in the dangerous old days, I used to sit on my dad's lap in our VW van. I would do all the gear shifting, even reverse, and my dad expected me to know which gear he wanted. I was mostly right.
Well, Dan, you were Smart Shift before Smart Shift existed.
All right. Miles Davis says, hey, guys, love the podcast. Can you see Arrival making a decent dent in the final mile delivery market, or do you think that space is quickly being dominated with the likes of BrightDrop, which is the new GM subsidiary, Rivian, which is doing stuff with Amazon, and other legacy automakers? Cheers. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I can see Arrival doing quite well. They've been around for a while. Like it's not like they are new to the game or anything like that. Like they've been early on and they build a relationship with the big fleet maker. I mean, they have contract with like UPS and big people like that. So big companies that have large fleets. So I wouldn't be too worried about Arrival. I don't know exactly. Maybe we should talk. We should reach out to them and talk about it. Maybe on a interview on the podcast, something. They have this strategy of using micro factories, they call them. So like if they have a contract with someone somewhere, they build a factory and a small factory to produce those vehicles, and then they keep that factory going for other potential contracts and just general demand for the vehicle there. And so they have plans like I think they already have 2 plans in the US that they're going to do, and they have some in Europe. It's a strange strategy that we never really seen before. So I don't know about that part of it, but the vehicle look good, the specs looks good. So yeah, I'm fairly bullish on Arrival.
All right. So in regard to the EPA standards we were talking about, 200 tubes. 2000
tubes
says Tesla uses a 0.8 EPA factor and others use the 0.7 EPA factor. Yeah. You know, that sounds about right. Why doesn't everybody just use the same EPA factor?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm happy if everybody uses 0.8. Like that's great, just as long as it's the same. All right, Kenneth Jones. It's not an aftermarket as it required a different bumper.
Yeah, I think he posted that as you answered the question right now.
Yeah, that was regard to the third row on the Model S. Yes. Regarding EV range, the Bureau of Weights and Measures is obsessive about setting exacting standards. Let them determine a test for range that's fair to all. Adjust your expectations based on your style. Yeah, I think the big problem is the coefficient that you're allowed to use anything from 0.7 to 0.8. So, all right, Kenneth Jones, it's going to be another checkbox when the Cybertruck floats.
Not sure I understand that one.
I think we were talking about the third row seat being a checkbox for having the fastest car. So he's
yeah, he did say that. The Cybertruck's gonna float. Elon said that. Yeah.
That
I don't plan on putting my Cybertrucks in the water though.
Yeah, it's stainless steel though, so it's not going to rust. You have to make door handles on a truck bulletproof for mud, sand, snow, and ice. Yeah, I guess it's less to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
Model S was the worst. That's we're talking about door handles. I think there are so many Model S door handles that broke. There was a faulty part that broke.
Yeah,
I can say anecdotally, I had a Model S from 2013. 3 of my 4 door handles broke.
Yeah, I mean, I have a 2012 Model S. One of them broke. I think it wasn't a problem early on that they eventually fixed. Though, you had your Model S from 2013 to when?
2018, I think.
And do you remember when those broke? And did they broke like early on and then stop breaking?
Yeah, my passenger one broke twice, and then my driver's side broke once. The passenger side actually came from the factory not working properly, and then they fixed it, and then it broke again. I don't know. I don't think the mechanism was like QA.
No, I think they fixed it at one point.
I had an early car, so I'm sure they figured it out. Disappointed Tesla raised the price of the Model 3 again.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm sure they won't raise it anymore, so you're fine.
Or they bring it back down and then they raise it again.
Yeah. Might want to run some numbers before guessing on FSD value. All right.
I mean, the big number that no one can really that has to be a guess. Really, is like how many people are actually going to use that like as a ride sharing service. We just don't know that, so there's no really any way to know.
All right, 2000 Tubes Thursday says, "I wish I would have waited for the full self-driving subscription." I'm kind of in that boat as well. But yeah,
really though, because it's not going to be cheap.
I know it's not going to be cheap, but like I wouldn't use it. I don't know. I don't know how the subscription is going to work or how much it's going to be. So it's hard to say. Why do you disagree with Elon's assessment? You're not stating why. I think we did. I feel like we spent about 20 minutes talking about it.
Historically speaking, he's been late before. So is that mainly what you base it on?
I think also like that it wasn't ready yet. Like it doesn't seem like it's going to be ready by the end of the year.
I've been impressed personally with what I've seen from the FSD, but like you said, we know we're not seeing everything. Maybe so. FSD beta, I mean.
Yeah. All right, Mark, the Tesla Prince says, any clue when Canada will get the new FSD?
I wouldn't hold my breath about that. Like, even though the difference between Canada and the US in terms of roads and markings and signs like that are not giant, they are significant enough that it's going to take a while to adapt it, I think.
Yeah. Green Gold says Chevy Bolt looks better and better since Tesla raised prices for the standard range plus again. I don't know.
Yeah.
I
mean, it's definitely cheaper,
yeah.
But is there that many left, like the 2020 or 2021 or whatever it is?
I guess. Every day somebody tips me like, oh, I just bought a 2020 Chevy Bolt new for like $20,000, which is impressive. Should have been that way.
If you can find them, I think it's not bad money to spend.
All right, Bob Holland. So this is something I didn't remember hearing. Let me get this straight. He's calling Sandy Munro a fanboy. Is that
yeah? Yeah, I think Sandy Munro is pretty much a fanboy these days. Like, have you guys seen the interview with Elon Musk? Like the first 30 minutes were just like
gushing praise.
Yeah. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, there's definitely plenty of room for praising Elon, I think. But Yeah, I would call him a fan, but is that in reference of like us saying that he mainly only and Sandy Monroe? Does he even have a Tesla at this point? Like, he does. He certainly doesn't have FSD. I think someone gave him a drive in an FSD, so it's not like.
And I feel like it was Tesla that gave him a drive in the FSD.
No. I think it was a bit
Okay.
Early access owner. I think.
All right. Wayno says, "Isn't the Cybertruck going to have over 500 miles of range?" I think one of the configurations.
That's what Tesla says. Yeah, the top configuration should have over.
But that's not going to be coming this year.
Tesla said that they're going to release the first 2 top end versions first.
Yeah,
but who knows? That was a year ago at this point, over a year ago. So,
FYI, the CTEC CCS adapter is nearly the same price as CHAdeMO now. That's interesting. So there's this. I can't tell if it's Korean or Chinese, but there's a company called CTEC CCS that's making a CCS adapter, and they're selling it in the U.S. My understanding, though, is that
it started at $1,000 and now it's like $450.
Yeah,
is that what you're saying? Because
I think so. I'll go check it. But
that's a big price difference, and there's just
some people have been having problems with it. It depends on which charging station you're using, and I think it only gives you 50 kilowatts.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So yeah, I don't know. Okay, we're talking to each other. Do you recommend a Rivian or a Cybertruck? That's a good question.
I mean, I think they're both extremely viable options.
If you like door handles, you're definitely going to like the Rivian.
Yeah. It's kind of weird. Like, I feel personally the Cybertruck is your safest option because Tesla has a proven record. But in terms of of an automotive startup, Rivian is basically as good as it gets in terms of what they've done so far. But they haven't delivered anything yet. So you're kind of judging on a short history, if you will.
Yeah.
But they seem to be taking every step correctly right now. Down to what we talked last week about their charging infrastructure plan, which is very much like Tesla. But I mean, Tesla is definitely the one to follow on that front. So
right. Green Gold, actually, Chevy Bolt LG batteries degrade less than Tesla's current battery. We'd probably have to see some data there, but I know my Chevy Bolt didn't degrade too much. So there's one data point. Stellantis has PSA electric cars, Peugeot E208.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it did help them in Europe, but in North America,
that's right. They merged PSA and FCA merged, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, so that they also have the. That's not Renault, is it? No, that's Mitsubishi.
No. Yeah.
Anyway, they also have the Citroen, right?
Yes.
Okay. Shane O'Sullivan says, any thoughts on Formula One drivetrain problem? They are currently hybrid petrol, but are considering living to hydrogen for 2025 due to Formula E having rights to electric drivetrain for 25 years. Oh, wow. That's weird.
Yeah, I always thought that like Formula One would just switch to electric eventually and compete with Formula E. I didn't know that there was a right thing going on. So yeah, they are both under the FIA.
Right. Yeah, FIA.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting to see what happens there. GM is thinking about building another $1 billion battery factory in Tennessee. Great.
Oh, was it in Tennessee? I know we reported that they were planning to. I don't remember that it was in Tennessee, man.
Volkswagen Chattanooga.
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee's kind of becoming a hub.
Yeah. Citation required for your share. It's heavy that we said that. Who says LG? Last I heard, they were still using those foil packet batteries, and those are absolute garbage. All right, I think we're kind of getting to the end here. Make a Cybertruck door handle AI controlled like the gear selector, voice activation. That's one way to do it. Do you guys think SmartShift will come with all FSD vehicles, including the Model 3Y via software update?
For sure. That's part of the goal. Like Tesla is trying to automate not just the actual driving, but everything that comes with driving, so that you can literally have the car drive with not only driverless, but like literally no one in the car. So the one the car is gonna have to do reverse. And I mean, Tesla already does reverse and drive autonomous shifting since Autopark. I mean, Autopark will do that. If you have a 3-point parking situation, they go drive, reverse drive like this. It's not new in that sense.
All right, I think that's it for today.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, everyone, for listening. We had fun tonight on the show. If you like the podcast, we appreciate if you can give us a thumbs up. For some reason, that helps with the YouTube and Facebook algorithm. So if you're watching on Facebook, on YouTube, do us a favor and press the like button. Only if you like the show, of course. You can give us a subscribe or a follow on whatever platform you're doing, and click the notification button so that you're notified when we go live. That's always very useful. Though we're pretty consistent on Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern time. And if you're listening on your podcast app, you can give us a follow there too, and download the new episode whenever it comes out. And if you can give us a review too, that's also really appreciated, because it does help us grow the community, the platform. So have fun. Have a safe week. We're going to see you next week. Bye-bye.